How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. We're doing something a little different today, as I've brought on two of my buddies, content creators as well, to draft the best players in the league, 21 and under. No 22, 21 and under. With me, I am lucky to be joined by Andrew Fenichel and CT Fazio, two longtime friends of mine. Why don't you all introduce yourself? Tell the people what you do.
CTOU.
Thanks, Andrew. What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. Hyped to be a part of the project. Should be fun. I'm from New Jersey. I do a little bit of writing over at crownhoops.com, some NBA draft stuff, a lot of Nuggets content. I'm a basketball coach as well. So I coach my alma mater's middle school team, varsity boys basketball, 7th and 8th graders. Head coach over there, my old middle school. So just been doing a lot of draft content over the years, big boards analysis, things like that, and primarily cover do a lot of Nuggets analysis as well. So hyped to be speaking with you guys today.
Yeah, and what's up, everyone? I'm Andrew. Big fan of the Ben Pfeiffer YouTube channel. So a little bit of
Me
YouTube
too.
myself. Aren't we all? I think that's the least hot of a take of this show, being a fan of the Pfeiffer content. Yeah, do a little bit of YouTube myself. Honestly, just content creation on the NBA and some other sports too, but I mostly focus on the NBA. My channel is just under my name, Andrew Fenichel. Actually, fun fact.
Big TikTok star.
So, something like that. Signed a couple shoes back in my heyday. But fun fact, actually, born in Boulder, Colorado. Not a Nuggets fan, though. Grew up in Washington, D.C. So if there's a little bit of Wizards bias, this 21
that's brutal. That's brutal. That's a tough draw for you. Anyways, let's get into the draft. We are drafting players, a team of players, 21 and under, not necessarily thinking about team fit on a basketball court. You can if you want, but the main goal of this is to get the best 7 or 8 players possible. We're going to snake it. CT with the first pick, Fenny, Andrew with the second pick, and me with the third pick back to back. So why don't we just start it off? CT, I have a feeling I know how this is going to go, but who are you going to take first overall in this draft?
Yeah, so I think my first overall pick is appreciate Ben giving me the nice lob for the first pick, but I'm going to take Wemby. I think it's a pretty easy pick. Obviously had a great first rookie year this year with the Spurs. Even parlayed that at the Olympics as well, going against some of the best NBA players to even play the game, I would say. So I think he's on a great trajectory, especially going into a second year. But I think the sky's the limit for him. Obviously, defensive monster, all around versatility. I think the offense is still a bit of a work in progress, but overall, I think he's going to be able to really improve that side of the ball as he gets older, and especially playing under legendary coach and probably arguably the best NBA coach to ever coach and Pop. I think the sky's the limit for him, and I think he's going to get the most out of his potential in San Antonio.
Yeah, I guess the only I feel like this is, regarding this draft, this is an easy pick. I mean, even regardless of if this was a next year thing or a future thing, which is a future thing, obviously. But regardless, easy pick. I guess the only thing to really discuss is how good is he going to be next year? Is Wemby going to be a top 20 player next year?
Right.
I feel like that's very possible and within the cards.
Top 20? I think that's taking it very easy. I think he was a top 10 or top player to end last year.
Yeah, no, I think he probably was as well. At least the way he was playing at the end of the year, I think that's probably fair.
He's looking bigger in off-season photos. I think he held his own, obviously, in Olympic competition. Yeah,
definitely.
Top 20. Yeah. Well, look, award voting, obviously team record matters a lot to some of these photos. Yeah. That would be my concern as far as penciling him in for an all NBA team. But
sure, yeah.
I would be willing to say I think there's a better shot Wemby makes all NBA second team or better than misses the all NBA teams entirely.
I can definitely get down with that. I think Wemby is going to be phenomenal next year. No questions there. Benny, why don't we move on to your first pick, who I feel like is also kind of an obvious one, but maybe not. Maybe you'll shock me.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Johnny Davis. So I'm just kidding. We'll not be going with Johnny Davis.
Do not check my big board back in 20. When was he drafted? 22?
Yeah, me neither.
21?
Yeah.
Don't
Let's
check
all
my big
pass.
board.
Also, he's also probably too old for this right now.
Oh, God, is he really?
Yeah, he's 22.
Yikes.
Sorry, you're saved by you're saved by the age.
32. Yeah, he's got the athleticism of a 32-year-old at this point. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic. Superstar upside, the shot creation. We saw it in the playoffs last year. Yeah, I mean, does he settle for mid-range jumpers a few too many times per game? Sure. But like, I think in terms of the entire physical and shot creation package you want from like a number one guy, Paolo's got it. I got no questions. I'm a big Paolo guy.
Yeah.
Ben, I know you are too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I do think some people maybe have gotten carried away with what Paolo is right now, this second. But we're talking about long term today, and I think Paolo's ceiling. I'm still very in on it. Like you said, a lot of the shot selection and mid range stuff. I think you could even view that as a room for optimism, right? Because once he improves his finishing and hopefully clicks in his head that he's 6'10", 250 and bigger than everyone else, he gets exponentially more efficient. I think this draft is tough because under 22 is tough because we have obviously the rookies this year, most of the rookies last year, and a few guys from 2022. Paolo being one of them. Chet is 22, Keegan is 22, Jaden Ivey is 22. But anyways, unless anyone else has something else to say about Paolo, I think I'm going to have to make both of my picks here, which is not going to be easy.
Well, I'm curious, real quick, just round table for the group. If this was 22 and under, so all of a sudden, right, that's what? Mobley, Cade, Chet. Maybe I'm missing another person.
Chet, yeah.
Would Paolo also still be your guys' number 2 pick?
I believe Mobley is 23.
He would for me.
Maybe Mobley's 23.
But otherwise,
Yeah,
I'd probably take Cade, honestly.
Mm.
I still have that belief in Cade. Also, Chet is see 22 makes it way harder because then there's Chet. I don't know, man. I feel like I'd take Cade, but I very much would consider Paolo for that second spot.
Sure.
Yeah. I think I would take Paolo. I just think that his ability to take, obviously he's a better team than the Pistons for sure. But his ability to take a team like the Magic to the playoffs in his, this early on in his career, assuming that much usage, obviously he's playing beside, Franz Wagner, who's also very solid young building block as well. But I just think in the Eastern Conference, obviously I think the West is more competition-wise at the top. But I do think him taking a playoff team this early on in his career, going, I think they went 7 games with the Cavs, is a pretty impressive feat. I think so. I would take Chet. I mean, Paolo. Sorry, but I do think Chet would probably be neck and neck as far as that selection is concerned.
So much talent at that 22 age group, and that's the thing because we know some of these guys 21 other are going to break out this year. We just don't know which ones. But anyways, for my first 2 picks, I'm not going to dilly dally anymore. I'm going to take Amen Thompson and Brandon Miller. Because the talent drop off here is pretty substantial, and it's a lot of guys who maybe people might have a little more questionable ceilings or just are very young. But Amen and Miller, I think, are pretty good bets to be stars. Amen last year was ridiculous towards the back end of the year, as Houston used him in more of like a big man dunker spot kind of role, and he just murdered on as basically playing as a big and on defense. And of course, there's so much potential with him as a playmaker and a handler. And then Miller had such an awesome season for Charlotte. Both guys look like they are on, star track. I still would probably be a little bit higher on the men long term, which is why I took him first. But I'm pretty happy, as happy as I can be missing out on Paolo and Wemby. I thought maybe Fenny, you'd, slip up and take Bilal or something. But no, I'm very cool with Amen and Miller here. Those were the next 2 guys on my board after Wemby and Paolo. So I'm chilling with that.
Do you think Amen can fully develop on Houston?
I think so, just because I think he's gonna be like the guy there, aside from Şengün, obviously. Who Şengün just missed the cutoff for this draft. But which is very tough because he would have been an easy third pick for me. But yeah, I think Amen, like the fact that he fits in so well with their core as just like a role player means that like he's gonna have such a long leash. Like he's not gonna be squeezed out of the lineup like someone like a Jalen Green could, because he's pretty much only scoring and needs the ball in his hands. Whereas Amen, like you don't have to, like he can get 20, not even maybe at 20, 15, 10 a game, just sitting in the dunker spot, cleaning up offensive boards, playing in transition. And, the more he's on the court, the more he gets to develop. So I actually really do like Houston for a men's development specifically. And I would suspect we'd see another rocket or two come off the board at some point in this. But Amen is definitely the one that I think is going to be like the guy.
He was the top rocket on my board pretty easily too.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Miller, just like I think is going to be an awesome player. I don't know if he's going to be like a super duper star, but the shooting is so real at that height, and he can make plays a little bit out of the pick and roll. His defense is solid. Like I don't think he's going to be again like a first option on a title winning team, but he also doesn't really have to, right? Like I don't think that's they're so early, and I think he has a guy in LaMelo who obviously if LaMelo can stay healthy, that's a big if, but can be the more primary decision maker, ball handler. I think those two long term, assuming both end up being in good health, are going to be pretty ridiculous. Cool.
Yeah, it's a good combo right there for sure.
Absolutely. Fenny, we have your second pick, so we're snaking back. Who are you going to take right now?
So I think right around here is where it gets wide open.
I think this is so wide open. This is so wide open to me.
Which is why I questioned for Commissioner Pfeiffer. Did you ever say anything about NBA only for this draft?
I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with yes, NBA only.
Okay. So
NBA.
I was going to ask that too.
Because I would have taken Cooper at 3. So
yeah, me too. So I thought I got to steal there.
Future Washington Wizard, Cooper Flag.
Please, that's all I want. That's all I want. Okay, well then, yeah, I'm going to stick to who I have ranked highest on my board here, and I'm going to go with Shaedon Sharpe with the 5th overall pick.
Yeah.
I just think, like,
it's a good pick.
I mean, look, there are other guys on this list that maybe have higher floors or maybe are more traditional picks, but I think I like Sharpe because I love his upside as a scoring guard, especially. I think defensively he had some moments that, Ben, I know you and I would text about it, when he was actually healthy last year. I also think he can scale. I also think, like, if Scoot becomes a true, like, 30% usage rate guy and Shaedon needs to take a step back, if he's just, like, a great 40% three-point shooter who can also attack off closeouts, that's a great player. But I'm higher on Shaedon's upside than Scoot, so I'm going Shaedon 5th.
Yeah, I have no qualms with this pick. I had Shaedon fairly high on my board. He wasn't next, but I had him pretty high. And I think this is totally the range. CT, any thoughts on Shaedon generally?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great pick. I like Shaedon, especially in the time I've seen him with Portland. I know last year his year was kind of cut short due to injuries. But yeah, I was a fan of his kind of all around play. I think the 3-pointer obviously has to get a little better for sure. But again, someone with that athleticism and kind of versatility, I think is a great pick to actually, especially pair next to Paolo as well.
Yeah, I trust his shot to develop. He's been such a good like mid-range pull-up shooter his whole life, and I think we've seen spurts. Like I remember early in the season, like before, like he had a couple like little injuries that led to the big injury. He was at some point early in the season, I think through like December maybe even, he was shooting above 40% on catch and shoot 3. So if we get to see him sustain that, I totally agree. I feel like some people may have kind of forgotten about Shaedon just because he was injured, and the Blazers are not a team that people are really paying attention to, understandably so. But I really do like him. Maybe not as much as you. I think I'd probably still take Scoot ceiling, but I really do think Shaedon is going to be a good ass NBA player. And CT, you are back on the turn. So 2 picks for you.
Wow, this is a tough one. I think I'll probably go with Osar Thompson. Obviously the 3-pointer this year wasn't, very solid. Shot like 18% from 3. Obviously the volume wasn't as high as some of the other players in his class, but I do think the defensive versatility is very intriguing. I like a bit of the passing as well, and I do think playing alongside Cade is going to be a good fit for him, especially long term. So I think especially his fit with Wemby defensively, especially at the point of attack as well, could be a pretty special tandem right there.
I like that.
You guys want to talk about us, or should we go for the next pick?
Make your next pick, and then we'll talk about him.
Okay. This might shock you guys for the pick that I'm gonna take. We need some shooting next to Asar on the perimeter. I'm gonna go with Jabari Smith.
That does not shock. That does not shock me at all. Actually, I was considering him with my next pick.
Yeah, might be a little high there, but I definitely. I think as far as what we're going for here, we're going for a lot of height, a lot of length, a lot of switchability. I think as well. And Jabari, obviously is a pretty good shooter to add to the mix. As far as playing next to Asar, he shot 36% this year, 31% his first year, which wasn't obviously as good as we know he could kind of shoot. Pretty good defensively as well. So I think we're gonna have a pretty versatile trio right there, and potential to add to the mix, even more. But I kind of like the top three that I have right now.
Absolutely, yeah. I honestly really like both those picks. Benny, thoughts?
CT, I like you. I know we just met. You seem like a good guy. Hate the Jabari Smith pick. I'm not a Jabari Smith guy.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, you are not a Jabari Smith. You're just mad he owed you a summer league that one time.
He did when he dropped 30 in the second half and hit a shot to win the game or whatever. I just think even based on what you said, where you're looking for lengthier shooters on the wing, there are just other guys I'm seeing on my board who can play the hybrid 3-4 that I think are more athletic than Jabari, fit in the flow of offense better than Jabari. I don't know, have higher upside than Jabari. Yeah, solid player, but I just think there are limitations to his game, especially athletically, fluidly. That I'm not the biggest fan.
I had Jabari a bit
it's
lower
understandable.
than the board, just because I think his ceiling isn't as high as some of these other guys. But I do think I understand picking him here just because he is, to me, a pretty sure thing to be at the very least a good player. He already was a pretty good player last year, and I think if the shot ends up continues to be really special and he can develop in some other areas, that's a really damn good 3-and-D plus forward. Makes sense. CT has Wemby. He's got to give us a little bit of help.
Right. It doesn't really matter what he does.
And then I do like the Asar pick. Like you said, defensively had a pretty ridiculous defensive season last year. Here's the thing: here are the players aged 26 and under 26 with 2 steal rate and 2 block rate. Isaiah Hartenstein, Jalen Suggs, Shea, Tari Eason, Mitchell Robinson, Herb Jones, and the Thompson twins. So they are in good company, both of them. But I think Asar especially was really great on defense last year. So I think that's kind of an absurd trio right there, defensively at least.
Definitely what I'm going for with those 3 picks.
Penny, let's get your next pick.
See, I'm going to go with a little bit of game theory here because if I don't take this guy, I think you will, Ben. So I'm going to go with Shaden's teammate, Scoot Henderson, with my third pick.
Damn it. Yeah.
I mean, people were talking about him, myself included, as a star type of prospect at point guard 12 months ago. And then he gets hurt, isn't in the greatest situation. And again, I mean, he's one of the younger guys in the league, didn't play college ball, and people expect him to be prime John Wall from day one. We just need to give guys at least a second year. And even based on how he played the last month or so of the season, I thought he looked significantly better. With the jump shot, that's the concern. I think he does enough other things that even if he's never an elite jump shooter, he can still be a significantly good offensive force. I like the athleticism. I like the confidence. I know it factor isn't really a scoutable trait, but
his aura
seems like Scoot does. And talk about upside. I think upside wise, he's got as much of it as any younger point guard right now in the NBA. So
Yeah, I obviously like this pick. This is who I would have taken with my next pick if he was there. I think people are being far too impatient with Scoot Henderson. Like, I think the injury thing is like it's kind of like what happened with Cade. Like, you lose a lot of important development time just because of the injury. I'll say Scoot's the last 15 games of Scoot's season, 18 points a game, 7.5 assists, 38.6% from three with I'll find the efficiency numbers right now. But regardless, the 3-point shooting still, still well below league average true shooting at around 50, 52, but it's definitely better than the 48 he was at for the rest of the year. But yeah, I think Scoot got better as the season went on. He's going to keep getting better. And I think Portland's like quietly like having Klingon is going to be really good for him. Klingon is someone who may or may not go in this draft. I don't know, but I do think having him as like a screener and a lob threat, like Ayton is the worst screener and lob threat you could possibly have. And I like Wap and I like Wap Reith, but he's just a role player.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
he did all those numbers with DeAndre Ayton as a center. I mean, like you said, not good.
Ayton has his strengths, but screening is not one of them.
Yeah, if you like 8 foot push shots, DeAndre Ayton's your guy.
The things that Ayton does well don't necessarily lead to like, lead to good team play necessarily. But cool. So I have my next two picks and I have some decisions to make. I don't know. I'm gonna take Jarris Walker because I feel like I have to, and I am quite high on him for the future. So I'm gonna take Jarris because I needed to get a pacer in here. And then yeah, why not? I'm gonna go with Derek Lively here.
It's a good pick. Here's my mix for the next pick.
Which is a little higher than I wanted to take him, but this is another one where like I figured I probably might not get him on my turn back. I'll go with, I figured I'd go with one big upside guy and one guy who I, know who we've seen and I know is going to be a solid contributor. Jarris obviously didn't do a ton for the Pacers last year because Rick Carlisle tends not to play young players, especially like younger rookies like Jarris, but he was absurd in the G League, and some of the offensive development that he's already shown, like pulling up off the dribble, playmaking with the ball in his hands, like if he gets the opportunity, which I believe he will at some point, whether it's an Indy or somewhere else, hopefully it's an Indy, but I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to be an awesome player. And then Lively, like I think there are quite a few players who I have on the board left with more of a ceiling, but I think like the ability to be that like complementary big in the playoffs in big moments matters a lot. So I think at this range, I'm totally cool with it.
I hated the Obi Toppin contract, and not even because I don't like Toppin or I don't like the money. 4 years, 58, pretty good, honestly. It's just because, is there a route for Jarris to get minutes more than like 15?
Yeah, that's kind of the issue for this year. But again, hey, this is not a next year draft, so but yeah, I think aside from Jarris, I really like the Obi deal. I think he makes a lot of sense with the Pacers, and that was reasonable money. But yeah, I just I know. Hopefully they can find an in for him because I really do believe in the talent. I have a video on this channel where I broke down what he did as a rookie, which I think was certainly went under the radar just because he didn't play as much, leveragey minutes.
Yeah, I like the Lively and Miller combination. I think that's a pretty nice duo there. Lively, obviously, finals contributor. Obviously was really great in the finals. Had a good playoffs as well for a rookie. Was pretty impressive there. So, I like those.
Like it wouldn't shock me if Lively had somewhere near the range of like Prime Capella level impact at his ceiling. I don't know if he's been. Prime Capella was a really damn good player. And he was notably like jacked as shit and really explosive and could move guys. And obviously Lively's only, he's not even 20. I don't think he's he's got time. But I'm willing to take that bet on him developing that. So unless anyone else has anything to say on those two, we can move on to Benny's next pick.
Yeah, I can get back on the clock, turn my card in. Pretty quick turn too. I'm gonna go with Alex Sarr, number 2 overall pick in the draft for the Washington Wizards. I don't want to hear anything about 0 for 14. I've already wiped that from my brain. Truthfully, like I don't really care. Like he needs to stop shooting so many threes. Like
that was the problem.
He needs to get his ass on the block.
Seriously, and I think that's going to just come down to getting his ass in the weight room first. The NBA physicality, especially in summer league, was definitely even like he would take a dribble and then get nudged a little, and that's when he would go to the turnaround mid-range, right? Just being able to like be a little bit stronger is going to do him wonders. But again, that's like the easiest skill to develop is weight room strength. So, and then his movement skills, they trusted him to like bring the ball up in transition, very like a la Chet, what he'll do in OKC. I do like the jump shot, like as a complementary skill. And again, like I'm not looking at Alex as a Wizards fan as our future All-NBA talent. Like I think he has all-star upside. I think defensively he's going to be very, very good. It's like I think he's a superstar role player, and that's a good thing. Like that shouldn't be looked at as a poor outcome for a number 2 overall pick. So I think Sarr's got the upside. I also just think he can fit a role really well, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, I like the pick overall. I was considering Sarr with my last pick. Ended up leaving him. So you're welcome. But yeah, no, I agree. I don't give a damn about the over 14. I was in the building when that happened, and whatever. I don't care. I think the mentality shift is definitely the biggest thing I think that has to happen, where for sure he's going to get stronger. For sure he's going to get bigger. Can he turn the switch? And once that happens, to be like, okay, I'm strong. I can actually bully guys. But I think the defense is. I mean, his defense is good in summer league, and it's going to be absurd. Very. I think
his pass.
Yeah, he's a good passer. He's a good passer. He can dribble. Like not someone who's going to be like an offensive star, but I think again in the range of like top. He could. It wouldn't shock me to see him being a consistent like top 30 to 40 guy in the league. As just like a all-star, sub-all-star who's consistently in all defense conversation. So, CT, any thoughts before your picks?
Yeah, no, I like the Sarr pick. I had him actually number 1 on my big board going into the draft. I don't take too much stock into the 0 14. It's summer league at the end of the day. Can't take much out of it.
I'm glad none of us are big summer league believers in terms of the long term.
Only if it fits my agenda. Am I a summer league? League guy?
There you go.
Yeah. So like Strawther cooking in summer league, that matters, So
Strawther did cook in summer league. That's true.
Yeah,
anyways,
he was
Julian Strawther, unfortunately, a little bit too old for this exercise. So you're gonna have to settle with two other players. So CT, let's make your next 2 picks.
Okay, so I got 2 picks. All right, so I'm gonna go with Pods at this pick. Brandon Podziemski. Obviously, for a rookie this year with the Warriors was really good. Able to dribble, pass, shoot. Guy who was pretty effective playing off of Steph Curry and Clay and Draymond. As a guy who took over some of the lead defensive assignments on the perimeter this year. Pretty good shooter as well this year. Shot, I think, like 37-ish% around there. I think obviously he was playing in a good situation, next to, Curry, obviously still one of the better, probably one of the top 5 best players in the league. So I think that was added to his benefit, but I do think he's pretty scalable. A guy who could fit into a variety of different roles, could scale up, could scale down if needed. And I think playing around Wemby, you need some guys who are pretty good at the point of attack, but also too, he could shoot the ball. And he's a pretty good playmaker as well. So I kind of just like the all-around fit at that selection.
Yeah. Brandon Podziemski last year was, I feel like people maybe don't realize just how good of a shooter he was. Like, yeah, he shot 38.5% from 3, which is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome as a rookie in general, right? But his pull-up shooting specifically, he shot, let me find it right now. He shot like a ridiculous number off the dribble. I think it was like 39, 40% on a good amount of attempts. I think there's like sneaky upside here, which is like I feel like people are so kind of think of Pochemski as like a role player. That's what he was as a rookie, but like yeah, he was a role player as a rookie. He was a good one. Most rookies can't be good role players, and I think that means that there could be more in store if he continues to develop his athleticism. His shooting is really elite. His defense is awesome. I love that pick. I was hoping Pochemski would fall to my next turn. I figured it probably would not happen, but I love the pick. CT or Fenny, any thoughts? Or CT, you can go ahead and give your next pick.
All right, so I think the next pick here, it might be a bit of an overdraft for you guys, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to pick Keontae George at this pick.
I don't think so.
I just with he's still pretty on the younger side. Actually, I think he's like 20 years old, which is pretty staggering. Considering he was a rookie this year.
Yeah, he turns 21 in November, so still quite young.
Yep, still pretty young. I think he has some pretty untapped upside. I think I had him like around I had a top 10 grade on him, I think, on my big board back in the 23 cycle. But I like the scoring upside with him. Pretty big for a guard, I think 6'3", 6'4". Playing with the Jazz, I think playing off of Lowry, pretty good fit for him there as well. But I think again, a guy you could slot on or off the ball. Pretty versatile in that aspect. So just another guard to add to the mix that could shoot and kind of just scale up, scale down when needed.
Yeah, I honestly had Keontae as one of my next couple on my board. I don't think that's a reach at all to me.
Yeah, I was a bit worried about that, but just kind of needed the guard. Needed the guard depth there. So
yeah, I think Keontae makes a lot of sense. Again, I think a guy who's always going to have certain limitations, whether that's creating paint touches off the dribble for himself, some of the defensive stuff, but just like a dribble pass shoot guard at that size and strength, right? Like he's going to be a ridiculous shooter. He didn't shoot he only shot like 33-ish% from three, but the volume was high. He shot really well from mid-range. Free throw line was great. So he's going to be a good shooter, and the playmaking, I think, is good. And I trust Will Hardy to get him in positions to succeed. So overall, love this pick. Benny, thoughts on Pochemski and or Keontae before your next pick?
Yeah, I mean, love both picks. Keontae, I only had 2 guards at this point ranked higher than him. So definitely think he's in, the wheelhouse for this range. Pods, the only thing I'll say is I support the Warriors. If the reports are true that he was the holdup in a marketing trade, then I support the Warriors saying no and keeping Pods. I think Pods is just so perfect in so many ways. Both as like a potential role player, or like you said, I think he has bigger upside than most people think. So.
Question.
Yep.
We'll see if the other Warrior who gets thrown in those trades is going to go off the board. I think we'll probably do 7 or 8 picks, and then we'll call it, starting 5 and a couple bench slots. Theoretically. But anyways, Fenny, who are you going to go with for your 5th pick here?
All right, with my 5th pick, I'm going to go with a guy I was very high on in this year's draft cycle, Matas Buzelis, who I think fell way too far to the Chicago Bulls. As far as like the strategy for this game, we haven't seen Sarr and Buzelis and the other guys in this year's class on an actual, regular season NBA court yet. So you could argue it would be safer to go with someone we have. But as far as the age plus just like his baseline, I think is so high because bare minimum, like his defensive instincts, his work ethic from everything I've seen is incredibly high. I believe in the jump shot. I think the form is strong. He can create a little bit. Even like the stuff we saw in All-Star Weekend when he, hit the game winner on Brandon Miller to win that little game. It's like I care about that. Like that's cool.
He really has infinite levels of dog in him.
Yeah.
So I will never get over him publicly challenging Reese Share to a one-on-one. That's the sickest.
It's pretty crazy.
That's the sickest thing any prospect's ever done. I'm like, fuck yeah, I want that guy on my team. Like, that's awesome. And I think that stuff is also evident on the court when you watch him play. Like, he's a mean dude and he's a mean-spirited basketball player in the best way possible, right? Like, that's what he does.
So, two-way wise, I'm a huge Buzelis guy. I had him. I think he finished 2nd on my board. Yeah.
Wow. There were definitely.
I think I had him top 5.
I think he was like top 6 or 7 for me. So no real complaints with that. I mean, I like the approach, going for some upside, going for some rookies, and of course you got Paolo at the top. Oh man, I really don't know what to do with these next 2 picks. I thought I would have a solid, good plan going in, but I, feel less confident in that plan. But I think, Fenny, you had two chances to take Bilal Koulibaly and you didn't. So I'm gonna do it here, and then I'm gonna go with Reed Shepherd.
Nice.
For my next pick. Kind of, I feel like opposites of the spectrum here, where Koulibaly, crazy, long, tall, athletic, ceiling, toolsy guy. Reed, not. I think Reed is. I'm actually pretty sure Reed is older than Koulibaly right now. Just someone who's a dynamic offensive talent with the physical limitations, but yeah, I think Bilal. What he did defensively as a rookie, as Andrew will know, was really, really ridiculous. And there were enough flashes of the shooting, the driving stuff, some of like the complementary offense that, he shot 35% from 3 as a rookie, right? Like I definitely wouldn't say he was a good offensive player, but I think there's enough kind of nuggets of stuff there, whether that's his driving or some of the transition game or the cutting with really high effort. And especially once he gets a real point guard, like the fact that I guess he had Tyus, so like that's, a fairly real point guard actually. But again,
Jordan Poole.
Yeah, sure. He could certainly do better, I think. So Bilal and Reed Shepherd are my picks there. Thoughts from the peanut gallery from y'all too
I should have taken Reed with my pick because I probably could have gotten Buzelis with my next, and I would have taken. Yeah. So look, I put him up a wall. Yeah, I mean he's still growing too. Like the guy, he's kind of a freak in a lot of ways. And wasn't he 3rd youngest guy in the NBA last year or something like that? So
he was one of the youngest players in last year's draft. So probably.
Yeah, I think as far as two-way upside, there are not many guys I'd bet on, over Bilal. And Reed, I would say, again, not to overreact to Summer League in the same way I'm not going to overreact to Sarr. But, the one thing that stood out to me about Reed was his hands. I mean, the guy is like a pest in a way I didn't even quite grasp at Kentucky. I wouldn't be able to take more than one dribble against Reed Shepherd. The guy would just have me. So, yeah. Great picks.
And Reed is actually 2 days older than Bilal Koulibaly. So we got some birthday synergy. Hopefully that Zodiac GM account likes my team because of that. And yeah, like I've kind of, and look, there are a lot of people on draft Twitter who love Reed and think he has real star upside. I'm not that high on him, but I think I agree. He's going to be a damn good offensive player. Who with I think the defense, the size is always going to be an issue, but his hands are really special, like you said. He's just has that playmaking instinct on both ends of the floor, but I think defense especially. So I'm pretty happy with those two. I have a couple other guys who I wanted to take who I might regret passing on, but anyways, I'd say let's do 8 picks. Why not? Benny, why don't you go with your 6th pick?
Sure. This is the hardest pick easily for me so far. I feel like there's such a huge pool of guys I could like here. I'm gonna stick with the board I came up with last night, though. I'm gonna go with Stephon Castle with my next pick. I just think specifically with him, I just believe in the defense a ton. I think he's gonna be an All-NBA caliber defender. The point guard stuff and that whole debate pre-draft, maybe. I also don't really care. Sure, if he can run some offense at points, great. They have Wemby, so he proved at UConn he can fit into a system and take some off to help a team win. He hits shots when teams would leave him wide open. If he can get to 35% from 3, I think that'd be huge. I think he's a great cutter. Yeah, but mostly just the defense, I think, is a true elite skill.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little lower on Castle. I probably wouldn't have had him this high, but I do agree that the defense is pretty legit. He's gonna be a really damn good wing defender. And yeah, I feel like just being on the Spurs is just like a bump for everyone. Like it's just gonna be easier for those guys to develop and be good when you have a guy like Wemby next to you. Like easy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I like Castle pick. I watched him a bunch. Obviously being I'm from the East Coast, I was able to see him play in person a lot. In high school too, I know he was able to play a little bit more on the ball than what we showed at UConn. But like Andrew and you said, Ben, really good defender at the point of attack. Pretty good height at 6'6" as well. But I think he's kind of be able to flip between playing a little bit more on the ball, but also play off the ball as well, and show that kind of versatility like he did at UConn. And just honestly, he's like a winning player. He's able to play whatever role you kind of need to fit. And I think around Wemby, you're going to need a guy like that. So great pick.
No doubt. Yeah, I certainly see the vision there. Anyway, CT, want to make your next two picks, your 6th and 7th pick. You have one more pick after that. So,
all right. So I got to make these picks count here.
yes, we do.
This is going to be a tough one for me. So this might be a heater pick. I'm going to pick Josh Giddey with this pick.
Okay.
Controversial pick, but I think going to the Bulls, I think is going to be a little bit of a new opportunity for him. Obviously was basically rendered unplayable in the playoffs from what we saw this year with the Thunder. But I do think maybe playing off of Levine could be a little bit beneficial for him. Someone who's not going to – Shea obviously assumed a lot of usage, so I think Giddey and Levine, I think Levine could play a little bit more off the ball, and that could be a little bit more tenable of a fit there. Kind of more of just betting on the upside a bit and kind of being a little bit more of a reclamation for his career going to Chicago. So that's kind of the vision I see with that pick there.
Great.
Definitely worse. Yeah, definitely worse reclamation projects. We've seen the talent in the past. We've seen, sometimes, second year, third year players stagnating development doesn't mean that they're always going to be on a downward track, right? So who knows? Maybe a change of scenery, different roster, different teammates could re-spark some of that playmaking and some of the juice he's shown before. Anyway, CT, who are you going to make for your 7th pick of the draft?
So like Ben had the agenda pick with Jarris with the Pacers. I'm going to go with my Nuggets. I'm going to pick Peyton Watson at this pick. And again, I think probably I didn't want to test it, but I probably could have gotten Peyton as my last pick if I wanted to hold off. But just to ensure that he's there, I'll pick him now. Watson obviously was a big time high school recruit. Went to UCLA and didn't fare too well there, but then was picked obviously with the last pick in the first round with the Nuggets, and kind of sad his first year. Played in the G League, got experience there, and then last year kind of was brought into the rotation with a couple departures that the Nuggets had off their championship roster, and he fared pretty well. He shot the ball like around 35%, I think, for a lot of the first half of the year, I think. Then his 3-point percentage kind of tailed off toward the end of the year. But guy obviously who's like a really, really dynamic defender on the ball, off the ball as a help defender, great rim protector for a wing as well. And I just like the positional versatility that he has at 6'7". Defense is obviously going to be the calling card, but I do like the ability a bit to handle the ball. He showed a little bit of flashes, attacking closeouts, getting to his mid-range shot as well. So more of an upside pick, but I do like Watson, especially defensively next to Wemby and Alsar. I think that's an all-star trio right there on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I figured this would happen eventually, but I don't hate it. I think Watson's defense is very legit. And will always get the boost, playing off of Jokic as a cutter, an off-ball mover, all that good stuff. I like the Peyton Watson pick. Fenny, any thoughts on Peyton Watson?
Look, yeah, a little high for my taste, I guess, but I love Watson. It's not really about him. It's more just like there are other guys that have produced at a little higher of a level already in the NBA that I probably would have taken and that I will take. But I love
that's where I ultimately landed too. But I think you got to get your Nuggets guy CT, and I think Peyton is like another guy with a realistic, like all defense conversation type ceiling. Like would not shock me to see him whenever he ends up playing real starter minutes for the first time, getting in conversations, So and that's not nothing at all.
I mean, he's going to replace Aaron Gordon in the starting lineup when Gordon's contract's up, right? Like that's what they're nurturing him to do.
That would be great.
I think
if
that's eventually, I think, the hope as well. But we'll see if ownership cheaps out and doesn't give Gordon that extension this summer.
Yeah,
like they did with KCP. But
seems like a good bet at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Awesome. Unfortunately, yes. Awesome, Fenny. Let's go with your second to last pick here. Who are we going in? What is this, round 7? Yeah, round 7 of the draft.
Yeah, so round 7, I'm going to go with a guy that, like, I don't even like that much, especially compared to consensus, especially just compared to, like, this, I just feel like the general hype around him. But I'm going to go with Jonathan Kuminga. I just think at this point in the draft, like,
I was going to pick him there too. Yeah.
Look, like, I'm looking at the other people that are available, and none of them have come close to averaging post All-Star break 17, 5, and 3, 33% from 3, 52% from the field. Pretty much like the second best offensive player at times for the Warriors last year. And they were like a decent team. Like, yeah, at this point in the draft, I just think Kuminga is a steal given his production. And the fact that this is his 4th year and he's still a part of this draft, I mean, he's still under 22, means like he still has more upside.
Super, super young rookie.
Yeah. I also think the Warriors have been kind of just a weird structural fit. I mean, he's had to play with Draymond and no real center, and Curry's been in and out of the lineup, and you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it's a great value.
Yeah, he was a really efficient driver this last season, especially as he continues to unlock like the handling and his just crazy athletic tools. Well, I think, as like a driving and D type role player, I don't know how it's going to fit. Yeah, like I definitely agree with you that like I'm lower on consensus. I don't see like a star ceiling really, but I think it's like a solid complementary scorer who can really defend. Hopefully the 3-point shooting can bounce back to where it was in his second year. But with a guy like Kuminga who has like shaky touch and doesn't take a lot of threes, like that number is always going to fluctuate. Like he's going to have seasons. He might have a season where he shoots 40% and he might have one where he shoots 29. Like that's just kind of how it's going to, that's how life is for shooters like that.
Like, I guess what I'll say is I definitely like Pods more than Kuminga, but not by, 10 picks in this draft.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's definitely fair.
Yeah.
For sure. Awesome. I like that. Like I said, I certainly would have considered Kuminga with my next pick. I still haven't decided who I'm taking with my last 2. I have a guy who I want to like shot call on, but I don't know if it's a good idea over some other prospects who I kind of, pretty much know. I'm going to do it. Screw it. So with my first pick, I'm going to take Cam Whitmore. Just because I think he's gonna be awesome. There's a couple guys I want here. But I'm gonna just call my shot, and I'm gonna take Leonard Miller.
Nice.
As there were other players who I think are safer and have better floors. Obviously, Leonard hasn't really done anything in the NBA, but between how young he is, he's a guy who's crazy young. He's still 20, despite going to be in his 3rd year, right? This year, like super, super young. Wolves are so deep on the wing, but I think offensively already has just been a machine as like a crazy fluid, long driving wing who can really shoot the ball. Defense, work in progress. But if any team I think can help that, it's Minnesota and that defense they have. And then Cam Whitmore. I was debating between him and Ron Hollins, but I ended up going with Cam just because we've already seen what he can do in an NBA offense, and I think if we get like any improvement to his playmaking and his defensive consistency, like there's going to be a low-level all-star guy in there. So thoughts on those last 2 picks of mine?
Yeah, I like the Whitmore pick. Miller as well, I think, is that seems to be the Tim Conley special down the line. A guy that he kind of like pre-drafts. kind of pre-drafts, and then you kind of see them blossom, a little bit further down the line. But yeah, Whitmore was a guy I saw at Villanova play a bunch in person. His slide was really kind of like shocking to me, that a guy that like with his talent to really slide down the board as much as he did. But yeah, I think Whitmore is going to be a really probably dynamic role player for the Rockets probably as soon as this year. He kind of showed that last year a little bit in spurts, but I think this year coming up is going to be a pretty big year for him coming up.
I agree with that. Fenny, you're a Whitmore guy, right?
I am big time. Shout out to my boy Ryan Hammer. We have
I was about to say that.
Because I remember you were there when we discussed this at Summer League, so I'll throw it to CT. The question is, and the bet is, will Cam Whitmore ever have a season averaging over 20 points a game in the NBA? What do you think?
Man, I think for me, it's going to depend on the opportunity. I think with the Rockets, like there's a couple guys in front of him.
Diplomatic answer.
Yeah. Will average 20? I'd probably say no.
Okay.
But I do think probably around like 16-ish is probably within the more realistic kind of side there.
I think he's going to get 20. I think he's going to have a season of 20 points. I trust him enough as a scorer. Hey, I mean, if like, I don't know, like if RJ Barrett averaged 20 points a game this season, like I think if that can happen, then I think Cam can get there as well. No slight to RJ, but I think those guys are, similar enough to where I think you get there.
Yeah. I think he gets there. I don't know if it's on the Rockets. I'd probably say it's not on the Rockets, honestly.
Yeah,
but,
that's a good pick.
His athleticism stands out, but for me, it's specifically the strength. I just think that gives you such a good baseline in the NBA to score the ball. Like you can bully guys. You can bully these guys. Yeah, to 12 points a game. Hits a couple threes, that's 18. Couple free throws, that's 20. Right.
Yep.
Awesome. So those are my last two picks. My draft is done. So Fenny, let's get your last pick going.
Yeah, so it breaks my heart that I can't take my guy Bub Carrington with my final pick. There's one guy remaining that I have ranked just a little bit higher than Bub, and that's Gigi Jackson.
Ooh,
so I'm going to take him with my last pick.
Nice.
Upside, like, look, last year, was it empty stats on a bad team? Maybe. But, like, also he's 6'10" with ridiculous handle and scoring. And I think I really believe in the jump shot, too. So I think he's going to play really well next to a guy like John Morant and Des Bane. Yeah, I mean, he's also incredibly young. I'm betting on the upside here. I think he can be a 20-point-per-game scorer. This jump shot, like, yeah, whole package, 6'11", whatever he is, like, yeah, I think he can do it all.
I think maybe I'm not as high on some consensus people as Gigi, but at this point in this draft, I love that. I was also considering him for one of my last two picks. And ultimately just, went other directions. But he's one of the guys who I'm just most curious to see what he looks like next year. Because, like, what a unique situation, right? Being like the primary guy on a terrible team as an 18-year-old, and then he's going to be playing on a team expected to contend for a title in like a 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th man role. So like, how is he going to adjust? I don't know, but I'm certainly very curious to see. And I think whether or not he ends up being a star, like what he was able to do as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old in the NBA alone was impressive enough for me. As a scorer, as a shot maker, like you said, the handle is really impressive. So I have a lot of faith in Gigi being a pretty good NBA player. Maybe not this year. I think there might be a bit of a struggle transitioning to playing such a different role. Might take some time, but that's fine. He's still younger than most rookies are.
I also think people underrate putting up good stats on a bad team, right? Like, we're so quick to just be like, who cares? But like,
especially at that age, though. Especially at that age. If you're like 27, if you're like Terry Rozier doing it, it's like it's one thing. But like if you're an 18-year-old 6'9", 6'8" kid, like that matters, right? Like
exactly. Maybe that's what I should have said. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe that's not your. Yeah. Maybe that's not your role going forward. Like maybe you're never going to do that again. But the fact that you can shows a lot of NBA stuff. So I like that pick a lot. CT, any thoughts on GG before your last pick?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with both of your explanations there. Gigi kind of playing in that role where he's, like you said, the lead guy and then scaling back to play more of a role player role. Kind of seen that with another situation for the Nuggets, actually, where I think it's a little bit different, where uh, kind of Moutier got the keys early on in his career. And
Oh
like,
boy.
he was like, yeah, I don't want to make like the distinction, but just like another example, like Moutier got the keys very early on in his career. And then he never kind of recovered after that because he didn't really like factor in like what's wrong and what's right. And I think with Gigi moving forward, I think it was good for him to kind of play through mistakes, but now like moving forward, like he's going to play more of a scale back role, and try to fit more into a role player kind
For
of
sure.
box. So I think that
Hopefully
only could be
having such
beneficial
a
to his career.
such a good roster around him helps him. They'll
Right.
help him develop, help him learn, especially with like smart players. Like talk about cerebral guys, Desmond Bain, like even Jaren's a really smart player. Like Marcus Smart,
Yep.
obviously, is a great guy to have around. Like it's going to be a really good group, and I'm fascinated to see how Gigi slots in. But anyway, CT, round us off. The last pick of the 21 under draft. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and doing this with me. And I hope all of you at home have enjoyed this and are currently yelling at us in the comment section. So CT, who are you going with this last pick?
All right, so last pick, I actually didn't think that he would be on the board at this point. But I think this is going to be a pretty. I think you guys are going to be surprised that he kind of is here at this point. I'm going to pick Jalen Duren from the Pistons.
Interesting.
Yeah, a double guy this year, 13 and 11. Obviously, the Pistons were not a good team, but I do like the ability for him to be a lob threat. Someone who's a pretty decent rim protector, I would say, but also too, I like the passing a bit is a bit underrated for me too. Watching him play, but I just kind of like the production. It's simply being 20 years old, putting up 13 and 11 double. Alongside Cade, I think is also going to be a really good long-term kind of connection there. We'll see, if he's the long-term guy, but I do think it's, as of right now, it's a pretty good combination. But also, I need another big as well. So I think Wemby could play alongside Duren if needed. If you really need to play two bigs, you can. But I think Duren could play. As the sole big, you can play next to Wemby. I think there's some versatility there. Obviously, the 3-point shooting is not non-existent, but on this roster, I don't think you're really going to need to be a shooter, more of a defender and a lob threat. So I like the pick as like the last kind of pick on the roster.
I was going to say I'm very cool with Duren as like a last pick of the draft flyer. He had a pretty rough year too, especially on the defensive end, but it's being a young big on defense is really hard, especially in that kind of environment when you have just zero help on the perimeter. So Duren's got to get a lot better, and maybe he needs to get out of Detroit. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think what we saw as a rookie, like you said, I totally agree with you. Like the passing, and there's some underrated offensive upside, and yeah, younger than a lot of rookies in this draft as well, despite being a third-year player. So I think that's a good last pick. Fenny, any thoughts on Duren here?
No, good player, good pick. I guess for me, it would just come down to value of a big versus like a guard. And I guess even in the context of like Ron Holland did not go in this draft. So would you take Duren over Ron long-term as the Pistons core rankings?
I would take Ron personally.
Me too.
Yeah, I would take Ron too. It's more of just I needed a big, I think, that I just was going to pick.
CT decided to completely ignore what I said about this not building a basketball team and build a basketball team anyway, but that's okay. I think we all got good teams. So these are the three squads, everyone. Let us know how we did. And before we head out, I wanted to hit a couple honorable mentions. Maybe anyone who's on your board or that you were thinking about picking that you didn't, or someone that you thought about and wanted to bring up. So I will give the floor to you guys, and then I will give some of mine as well, and we can talk for a little bit about this.
CT.
I had two guys. Yeah, I had two guys that just missed the cut. Was Donovan Clingan was one. Was pretty high on him pre-draft. Had a top 5 grade on him.
Yeah,
good rim protector.
Earlier that he would go. I figured it would be fringe. I figured it would be like a hard maybe towards the end.
Definitely, kind of factored in. He's a pretty good passer for a guy his size. Lob threat, obviously, really good defender. Then Cason Wallace was the next guy on my board as well. Good shooter.
That was the last
scale into a role player role as well. So it was between him and Duren for my last pick, but kind of went Duren with more of the upside play there.
Cason Wallace was the guy I was going to bring up. So impressive what he did last year in like a winning situation in OKC. I mentioned Bub.
I kind of regret not taking Cason, honestly, but that's fine.
Yeah, just good player.
It's a really
like
good player.
honestly, it's like, I mean, yeah, like Castle versus me taking Castle and yeah, Cason not going at all is an interesting discrepancy. I just, I think Castle's a much better athlete and different things there, but like Cason's got the jump shot, like still an amazing on-ball defender. So
I would probably prefer Cason out of those two, honestly. I wasn't probably going to take either of them in this draft, or I considered Cason towards the bottom, but just because of my ceiling focus approach. But hey, maybe Cason, I said it with Podziemski, right? A good role player rookie that might have a more untapped ceiling than people think. Like, talk about Cason, a guy who stepped into a role on a playoff team and he hit open jumpers, he cut, he grabbed rebounds, he defended like hell. And, maybe in a couple years, who knows? But Cason, any other guys that y'all wanted to mention here?
Where was Bronny James on your guys' board?
I figured, I just wanted to take it easy on you. I had a couple more I wanted to mention. The other guy that we talked about Ron, we talked about Cason. The third guy who I'm bummed I couldn't draft was Dyson Daniels. Who I didn't draft him because I think the offense is always going to be somewhat limiting. But he's a special defender. Like, he walked into the league as one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and he only got better in year two. The kind of stuff that he did on the ball last year in New Orleans was absurd, and I would expect him to be a huge boost to that Hawks perimeter defense. I love that get. I love that pickup. So Dyson was one that I really wanted to kind of think. And then two guys on the Magic, Anthony Black and Jet Howard, I both had on my list as kind of long shot guys. So I both like. And then a couple rookies, Rob Dillingham and Isaiah Collier, who I both love, was very high on. And again, just decided to go other ways. But yeah, those were the last guys I considered. So I think I've probably covered pretty much every name.
I'll shout out Taylor Hendricks for 5 seconds.
Yeah. So many guys from last year's draft you could have gone with.
Right.
Like Hendricks certainly could have been, maybe even, I could see someone going with like a Kobe Buffkin if you really liked him, kind of the same way that I took like a flyer on Leonard Miller. This was tough, but I think there really is so much talent 21 and under. And I think this is like fun because outside of Wemby and Paolo, like none of these guys are really like stars at all. So I think we're going to see some breakouts. I'm excited to see which one of us in a couple years ends up with the best team. But anyways, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on. Benny, CT, anything you want to plug or shout out, now is your time.
Ben Pfeiffer's YouTube channel. Like and subscribe.
Definitely subscribe.
Likes and subscribes do help. Go check out CT, like you said, lots of good Nuggets content, draft stuff, St. John's as well. Benny, big, like I said, he's the celebrity of the group. If you see him out in public, go ask him to sign your hat or something. But anyways, thanks guys for hopping on. We'd love to have you all back in the channel at some point. And thank you all for watching this video. I know it was a long one, but hopefully if you're sticking around, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and have a good night.